Okay, hi guys. So in this video, we're going to learn about a brain hack that has to do with cortisol and hormones and the brain, obviously, that will help you with your thoughts and controlling your thoughts and not having as many negative, intrusive thoughts and having more focus and all of that. So it's going to be a brain hack towards the end. But first, I'm going to discuss an experiment that I did that's pretty interesting. And like I said in my previous video, I grew up with scientists. I'm used to doing experiments, and I did this one experiment that really taught me a lot about the brain. And I'm just going to basically allow you guys to answer the question, can I just affirm that my mind is healthy and good and eat whatever? Almost like Abdullah told Neville, right? It's kind of like the age-old question that we're all sort of kind of grueling over, right? We don't know the answer, but I feel like you're going to be able to answer that for yourself after you watch this video, or at least it'll give you some clarity in some way, shape, or form, or you just have more information that you can, make your own decision from. Okay, so it's basically, when, and I'll just describe it a little further, is like when Neville went to see Abdullah was always telling Neville, like, you've got quibbles. And what he meant was, and it was about food and, sort of that kind of thing. And what he meant was, like, you're not going to be able to eat whatever you want. You're not going to be able to drink like I do because Abdullah drank whatever and ate whatever, right? And so my experiment sort of has to do with that sort of conversation that they had, because this was, I don't know, maybe like 7 years ago, maybe not that, maybe like 6 years ago, but I wanted to figure out for myself if that was in fact true, that you could literally just eat whatever, do whatever, indulge, just not focus on healthy brain foods. And I wasn't eating any of the dairy that I talked about in the last video, didn't even know about CLA, was just totally eating whatever I wanted. So the two things I did was, one, I just, for a period of time, I think it was about 6 or 7 months, maybe closer to a year, but I did it each for almost a year. So I started doing just, the first experiment was just doing whatever, acting exactly like Abdullah and just saying my brain is healthy and just using my mind to say my brain is healthy. But other than that, not doing anything else, okay? Just completely neglecting eating right, nothing. Like I just was, or I'm not like neglecting eating right, but I just ate what I wanted. And I still do that too. I do that to a certain degree now. I'm just more conscientious of what I'm eating, right? Just in regards to brain health, right? So, so the first year, we'll just say it was a year. It was like maybe 6 to 9 months, but we'll just, it was about, around 9 months, or, 7 or 8 or 9 months. And I just ate pizza, I drank beer. I mean, I kept the drinking very, casual and pretty much the same. I didn't really alter the drinking much, so that was one of the variables that stayed the same in the two experiments. So the first one, I was literally just eating whatever I wanted, no, just disregarding any sort of brain health stuff, and really testing out if I could just use the mind to tell my brain that it was healthy. And I sort of already felt like my mind was healthy anyway, but I did have new affirmations I was saying that felt good to say, right? Just that would help me feel like, oh, I'm doing, I'm working on my mind just by saying affirmations. So I did that for like, that many months, 8 or 9 months. And then I had a brain test, okay? And, or a brain scan. And what I found was that, okay, so I scanned my brain. I didn't have the results yet because that was the first scan. Okay, so I looked at it. I could just, whatever. Then the second year, I did focus on what I knew to do in regards to the brain. Now, I also affirmed, right? So I was doing both. I didn't just affirm, right? So, yeah, so I was doing the same affirmations. I was, doing exactly the same affirmations, exactly the same amount. And I did a scan, I believe it was around the same amount of time. It was like, 6 to 9 months or something, right? So I scanned again. And then I had the result of that scan. And when I put them side by side, there was a definite difference, right? And I wasn't indulging too crazily. I was just eating whatever and not having no regard for what I know helps the brain, right? So, and then the second case, I was literally eating in regards to the brain. I was eating more calories, like I talked about in the previous video, which I now have tested and know that is what helps me at least know that my brain's going to be at optimal function, right? And I do think in general that's across the board, like eating the dairy stuff that I talked about, or just sources of CLA. Someone asked about vegan or vegetarian sources of CLA. Some vegetable oils contain CLA. Also, mushrooms are a really good source of CLA. So whoever asked that question, that's sort of like an easy answer for that. But anyway, I digress. But I just was definitely looking side by side and knowing that the scan that I did both on was the best scan. Now, some of you might say, well, it's observer dependent, right? Because we live in an observer dependent world, right? Where like if you're expecting something to happen, it's like scientists discuss this all the time, that we live in an observant dependent world, and it's kind of like, our law of assumption, right? It's observer dependent. It's whatever you think it is, right? And this happens in science all the time. Like whatever scientist is watching the atoms or whatever they're observing, whatever they think is going to happen is sometimes what happens when that particular scientist is watching that experiment, right? I don't know if you know about the observer dependent model, but that's how it in a nutshell is. So anyway, so you might argue that it's observer dependent, but I literally went into it thinking either way. I didn't think that, one was going to be better than the other. I just literally was I was really open to the one that I was eating whatever, gluten, just everything that, now I don't avoid gluten, but I just eat less of it because I know it's not great for the brain. But I was eating a lot of gluten in the first one, right? And just whatever I wanted. I was eating not as many calories because naturally I wouldn't eat that many calories, but I was just eating more basic foods and not paying attention to any of the brain health stuff. So I was open to that one being really good, and that one turning out really well because I knew my mind was in the right place. So in conclusion, what I concluded was that doing both, it was the best outcome, right? And you can make your own judgment call. If you want to just do mind training, work in your mind, that's okay. I mean, I'm just saying do you, but I noticed a huge difference between the two scans when I was doing both. Okay, so that's my choice, and I'm choosing to do both. Because here's the thing, this is what I believe. I believe that if you can do something, like let's say I'm going to eat anyway, right? If you can do something, I'm going to, I want to be healthy in other ways too, or for other reasons as well, like, I want my skin to be good or whatever. But even that, you can still just affirm and do whatever you want, right? And you just assume that your skin's going to be good no matter what you eat, right? But I've just seen the difference, and so it's undeniable to me that it makes a difference if I'm going to be having to do an action anyway. It's almost like the analogy I've used before. You could sit around saying you're really clean, I'm the cleanest person in the world, but but wouldn't it be easy to shower as well instead of just sitting around saying that and not showering, right? I just see that when there's an action that's easy to take that complements your assumptions, then why not, right? And so since I know all this stuff about the brain, I might as well complement my assumptions about the brain with the right actions, right? And that's just my idea, my theory. You can do whatever you want. I just wanted to present that so that you can make a better choice, just have more information, you know. But again, everyone on the internet is providing you with their theories, right? You got to realize, so it's really up to you for what resonates with you, right? Because everyone's going to be telling you what they think is right? So I say everything with a grain of salt. Now, I believe in what I'm saying. I've tested what I'm saying. But again, this is just me presenting information for you so you can make the right decision for you. But so anyway, that was a cool experiment. I love experimenting. I'm going to be talking about more experiments in the coming videos about things that I've tested, things that I've learned, and things that I wanted to see for myself in my own self, right? Versus just reading books and looking at other people's scans, where I was just more interested in doing it myself. So I think that was a really informative one. I loved that the combination of the two made a significant difference, and it was enough for me to keep going with it, you know. And I've even since done a little more. Like now I don't drink as much as I was in those two experiments. I still was drinking, not a big amount, but you know, 2 glasses of wine a week, I would say, something like that. But not crazy, maybe 3 glasses of wine a week, but that's considered not that much in this day and age. But now I even drink less than that because I've seen even more improvements in my brain from drinking less, you know, and I just feel better too. But I mean, I'm not restricted. Like if I want to have something, I will. But anyway, so that was the only thing. But in those two experiments, I did drink approximately the same. You know, I was having beer. I still drink beer if I feel like it, but I was having beer and wine and, you know, sometimes mixed drinks once in a while, or like a martini. But anyway, I'm just saying that part stayed the same. The diet was what I was really testing. So anyway, on to the next point. I want to say something about cortisol, and I want to make the connection between cortisol and hormones for you guys, because it's a really good link, and it's going to help, you know, it's going to help you understand it better. And a lot of people are not talking about this or don't even understand it. But another reason why I decided and choose to eat the way I do, a high calorie diet, and, you know, all the fats I eat and everything, is because of cortisol and the link between cortisol and hormones. So when your estrogen is good and high and perfectly functioning, and you're not, you know, up and down with your hormones, your cortisol will be level, right? Because a lot of people talk about high cortisol, which means you're foggy in the brain. So cortisol affects the brain quite drastically. So high cortisol can mean weight gain. It can be weight gain around the middle, and, you know, tiredness, sleeplessness, you know, there's all these, you know, not great things that come from high cortisol, which comes from having imbalanced hormones. Sometimes cortisol can come from stress too, but one of the reasons you could have high cortisol is because you have hormones that are not balanced. So this is so let me continue as to why I would choose, or am choosing, to eat this way. So the fact that cortisol, you know, okay, so I'm back to the cortisol doing all these things. It also in the brain does several not great things as well. For instance, it can make our thoughts kind of more random. Like we don't have as much authority over our brain. We sort of have a lot of more fogginess, you know. So high cortisol can and does, I think, has the greatest effect on the brain, even though there's all these other things people worry about, like not sleeping great, or, you know, having weight gain in the middle, things like that. But I think the most detrimental thing about high cortisol is what it does to the brain. So this is just my opinion, but I'm going to be speaking more about this. If you guys are interested in the brain cortisol link with hormones, please let me know, because I can explain it at length. But let me just sum it up. So keeping your hormones balanced makes cortisol balanced, or is one way to make sure cortisol is balanced. And when your hormones are good, it's more likely that your cortisol is going to be good, even when you're stressed, because your hormones will keep it good, right? Keep it level. So, and this has a big effect on the brain. So it can keep you less foggy, more, in control of your thoughts, having better ideas. Some, high cortisol can lead to depression, can make certain areas of your brain less active. So there's a lot of different things that can happen with an unbalanced hormones and then high cortisol. So it's a really important link that not a lot of people know about, and I just wanted to share that on here because it's really interesting, and it helps you manifest and create your best life. Because if you have level cortisol and it's not all over the place, i.e. you have, and also level hormones, right, then you have more control over your thoughts, which means you're going to have more ability to produce better things, think better thoughts, direct your world in the way that you want to direct it, and create what you want. So anyway, I like that link, and it's an easy hack to direct your mind, right? And you don't have to try as hard. For me, doing brain work and enhancing the brain means trying less hard, and I'm in all honesty a lazy person. Like, I want to do the thing that's going to have the most impact, and I believe that the brain has the most impact. I mean, it's what creates our world, the thoughts we think. So anyway, I'm all about doing the easiest thing, and for me it was training the mind, getting the mind right, getting the mind in tip-top shape, so that everything else goes smoothly and I can create my best reality. So anyway, if you love this video, if you loved it and liked it, thumbs it up. And if you love brain health, the transformation, my unique perspective, law of assumption, stick around. I'd love to have you. Bye guys.